to Latinos in Michigan. I'm your host, Liliana Ospina Herstred, and today we're going to talk about why some people lose their driver license and how to get information about it in order to get it back. And we have a special guest, is the attorney Ronald Mc Kool, and we're going to talk about that. Welcome, attorney Ronald Mc Kool. Thank you for your information and your time. And what are some of the reasons that people's driver license are taken away?
Well, a driver's license can be taken away for many reasons. Some of those reasons include not paying a fine or all your fines at a court. You get a ticket, you don't pay it, and eventually you default and they take your license or suspend your license. It can also be the result of getting too many tickets, too many points. They can take your license if you get too many accidents that have injuries and that there's some kind of moving violation that you did during the accident. If you cause an accident and death occurs, they can cancel or suspend your license. Automatically suspends your license in some criminal offenses like drunk driving, drug driving, certain drug offenses, although the drug offenses are kind of going away with some new sets of laws. Another common one is if you are stopped for drunk driving and they ask you to blow into a data master or take blood to check your levels for alcohol or drugs and you say no, that can cause your license to get suspended as well. So lots of reasons that can cause your license to get suspended.
If someone's license is taken away, does that mean that they can get it back?
No, not necessarily. In many cases, they can get their license back even sooner than what they're told. In some cases, there's what they call hard suspensions, meaning you're not going to get the license back until a certain amount of time goes by. In other cases, they might say you can't get your license back for a year, but in actuality, you can get a restricted license. Let's say one example would be 45 days. So if you get a restricted license, and we can talk a little bit more about this later, there's often restrictions that are imposed. That's why they call it a restricted license. Some of those might include things that you might expect. If it's a drunk driving case, you might have to blow into an interlock device, a device that measures whether you have any alcohol in your system before your car turns on. And there's plenty of other restrictions you may have as well that we'll talk about.
What is the process that someone can do to get the driver license back?
Well, that really depends on what caused the license to get suspended in the first place. There's several different options, and there's suspension, which means it just goes away and comes back automatically. And there's revocation, which means it's gone unless it's reinstated. Because there's so many different reasons that cause it to happen or to cause it to come back, that's why you need to have an attorney help you through the process, because the first thing you do is get a copy of your driver's record, a complete copy, a certified copy, so that you can identify each and every cause of suspension or revocation. The form will also include whether you're qualified for reinstatement. So that form becomes crucial in allowing an attorney to help you get your license back. That form can also let you know, a lot of times people go, I don't know why my license is suspended. Well, maybe there was a parking ticket or a traffic ticket that happened in a court and you forgot about it. And now it's been 10 years and you don't remember why you don't have a license. That form, that driving record, will provide you with all that information. But the process that is most common to take is to do a reinstatement through an administrative hearing. Although I should say you don't technically need an attorney for this process, in every successful case I've seen, an attorney's been involved. You have to do a lot of preparation for that hearing, and that's a hearing right at the Secretary of State. During COVID, they're doing those through Zoom, but often it's in person. And to prepare for that, you have to prepare characters of sobriety, letters of sobriety, substance abuse evaluations, filling out the forms correctly, showing like AA, if you attend Alcoholics Anonymous, evidence that you have supported or have attended Alcoholics Anonymous. So there's many things we have to do to prepare for those driver's license restoration hearings. An attorney will help you walk through that process.
What does a positive result mean from a driver's license administrative process?
All right, so a positive result in an administrative hearing usually means, in terms of an OWI, typically a restricted license, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. A restricted license allows you to go certain places. For instance, it'll say you're allowed to go to work or school or to court or do something to satisfy your probation terms or to take you or your loved ones to an important medical appointment. So it'll give you the rules for which you can then drive. In other cases, it might be a complete restoration of your driving privileges, meaning you have your license back. So a positive result can involve either getting a restricted license or your full license restored.
What happens if the officer at the Secretary of the State's administrative hearing doesn't give the driving privilege back to the person?
So I should tell you, in a vast majority of our cases, we are successful at arguing at one of these administrative hearings. However, in cases that we are not, we have the right to appeal that decision, that administrative opinion or decision, at circuit court. Now, here's also where it's important to have an attorney. That judge, and now we're talking about a real judge sitting there to decide whether your license comes back to you, is looking at exactly what was in front of that administrative officer. So the judge can't look at anything new. So if you forget to provide something to the administrative officer and they reject you, the judge can only look at the things that the administrative officer had to look at. So first and foremost, you got to be completely prepared for that administrative hearing, knowing that that is the information that you provide will also be available at the next level should you need to appeal. And importantly, and this is, I can't say this with enough emphasis, we are very successful at the circuit court appeals. Almost all of our cases are resolved at the driver's license administrative hearing. Those that which are not do very well at the appeal process typically.
How long are licenses suspended after having a drunk driving issue, conviction?
Sure. So in Michigan, I should say, we call it drunk driving, but it's often called, well, it's technically called operating while intoxicated, impaired, under the influence of drugs. For these offenses, typically the first one you receive has a 6-month suspension, meaning that you can't drive for 6 months. But then again, like I said earlier, often the things that they say are the case, you can actually get a restricted license much sooner. In this case, in an OWI first offense, you can get your license back in 30 days upon a driver's license administrative process. There would also have a charge in Michigan called operating with a high BAC. That's a 180 and greater. So in those cases, your license is suspended automatically for a year. But you can also petition to have that license, at least in a restricted form, given back to you in 45 days. If you have an operating while intoxicated second offense, you're revoked for at least 1 year. In fact, if you have a third offense, or if you have multiple revocations, that can go up to 5 years. So the other one that has a kind of a hard sentence or a hard time that you cannot get it back is violating the implied consent. Part of Michigan driving, we give our consent implicitly that we're going to provide a breath sample or a blood sample should we're challenged, should there be probable cause to believe we've committed drunk driving. Not consenting to that, although there's some reasons why you might not want to from a evidentiary perspective on your case. Not doing it often, in fact, nearly always, will cause your license to be suspended for a full year. And there's not a lot we can do besides petition the court in that 1 year to reinstate it for certain purposes based on hardship. But those are kind of the common suspension periods. for the common offenses.
Why is it important for someone who has lost their license to speak with an attorney?
Well, I think you can probably tell by just this generalized conversation that the law is complex. People in Lansing have made the laws hard to read, and the average person doesn't stand a chance. You need an attorney to know exactly what you have to do to prepare for your driver's license administrative hearing, your circuit court appeal, or a hardship appeal for under an implied consent violation. The paperwork has to be precise, has to be conclusive, and you have to prepare well in advance of the hearing to make sure your case is successful. And that is where an experienced, quality attorney comes in.
Attorney Mc Kool, how can people contact you? What's your phone number and your email and website?
I can be reached at 586-558-8250. And my email address is rmckool@HakimLaw. That's RMACKOOL at Hakim, that's HAKIM, law.com.
Thank you, attorney. Thank you for your time and the information you gave us.
Thanks for having me.